We're back again at frigid Keeneland, a little warmer than yesterday, with the Daily Racing Form Breeders' Cup Clocker Report, brought to you by Spendthrift Farm. Like I said, the temperatures moderated a little bit this morning. At least the track got open on time, 6 o'clock. Temperature about mid-30s today, going up higher this afternoon, and then it'll be pretty nice the rest of the week. So I don't think we're going to have any track issues as we go along. Not a lot of, no real workers this morning, just mostly gallopers. More and more horses showing up. A lot of the Church of Domza horses are here. Some of the New York horses arrived. Some didn't. There was a little glitch with one of the flights last night, so some of the New Yorkers had to stay back one more day. The same thing with California. I think the plane carrying the Bob Baffert horses was delayed getting out of California yesterday, so we didn't see any Bob Baffert horses on the track this morning. But did see plenty of others, Europeans, the locals that have been here, so a lot to talk about. I'm just going to go kind of in chronological order, starting at 6 o'clock. I've got a lot of notes, some impressions from what I saw this morning. First horse out on the track was a California horse. It was Michael McCarthy's CC out for a routine gallop. And right after that, though, come flying by in the dark was Ollies Candy. Just galloping super strong. I didn't really pick her up until she got inside the 8th pole, but I could have probably put a watch on her at that point. She was going very strong with Juan Laver aboard, into it around the turn before disappearing in the dark once again. Shortly thereafter, Swiss Skydiver came out. Another good gallop today, a mile and a half, this time in the dark, a little earlier than yesterday. So another good morning for Swiss Skydiver. Right after that came Ollies Candy's stablemate, Higher Power. Not quite as aggressive as Ollies Candy, but still moving along at a pretty good clip. He's had a pretty good week since I've been here, so look for Higher Power. Maybe not win the Classic, but to give himself a pretty good showing off of what I've seen so far. Look for him to improve off of what he's shown before that. Ken McPeak came back out after that, after with Skydiver, with the team of 2-year-olds, Camp Hope and King Fury. And he let them stretch their legs pretty good today. He had them drop down on the rail. They weren't in company. They were one right behind the other, but they 2-minute licked it down the lane. I did have a watch on them. About 44 and change for 3/8 of a mile. So that's a little bit better than a 2-minute lick. So one of the few Breeders' Cup horses that actually almost a recorded work today. Not quite though, but they both look good, Camp Hope and King Fury. Right after them, Monomoy Girl came out early again today, but after the sun had risen, so got a good look at her. And what can you say? She looks good again. Another good day for her. She's going. Actually, all the Brad Cox horses are training super. So a lot to look forward to if you're a Brad Cox fan this weekend. That next sighting was Tacitus. Tacitus, oddly enough, worked on Sunday. Has not had a walk day. Galloped yesterday, galloped today. Looks good. Came out of the work well. Going to be a big outsider for a change. Usually we see him as one of the favorites in his races. He's going to be, I think he was 20-1 on the morning line for the Classic, but he has been doing well since he's gotten here from New York. And following Tacitus, our first look finally at macoma. We mentioned yesterday, a little conspicuous by his absence since his stablemates had arrived here a couple of days ago. macoma got on a van yesterday, was vanned here, came out this morning. Look, macoma, we've talked about it before. He's not the prettiest mover, whether he's galloping, whether he's racing, kind of wings it out a little bit, but just did a slow, kind of easy jog, a little over a mile today with Cindy Hutter aboard. Seemed to need a little encouragement to get going. He did miss some training over the weekend at Saratoga due to the track being closed. Got here a little late, so we'll keep an eye on macoma. Unfortunately, for trainer George Weaver, the post position draw wasn't kind. Drew post 14, going to break on the extreme outside for the sprint. That takes us up to the break. 8 o'clock, they came back on the track. The first toss, or one of the first tosses I saw after they came back on, was Arklow. He looks terrific. He was really strong today, pulling against the rider, wanting to do more. I think he's coming up to another big effort. He's in super form right now, and I don't see any reason why he's going to tail off after watching him this morning. After Arklow, Tiz the Law came out. They kind of waited this morning to the first rush of gallopers and trainees over the main track, kind of finished to get a little quieter time. We mentioned yesterday he was really on the muscle yesterday. Heather Smullen had all she could do to keep him on the ground yesterday. He was a lot kinder today. Still galloped strong though. Still going along at pretty close to a 2-minute lick. But you can see the difference between yesterday and today. He was a lot calmer, doing well. Again, the post position draw, maybe not so kind for Tisdalaw either, who wants to be outside horses, drew post position too. So Manny Franco's going to have to try to work out a trip, but he's going to have a horse under him that couldn't be doing any better. After that, we had a couple of horses that actually did some blowing out today. Actually, I forget earlier, if I'm going in chronological order, Donja came through the lane, was out in the middle of the racetrack, was motoring right along. I had him from the 3/8 pole in 40 and 4 to the wire, the final quarter in 27 and 2, and he continued at a really good clip into and around the turn, got a half mile in 54 and 1, and he kept going, didn't pull up till he got almost to the half mile pole, was out in the middle of the racetrack doing it too, so the time could have been a lot faster if they had actually dropped him on the rail to finish up into the turn. So I thought it was a good morning for Donja. A little later, Nezuma also did sort of the same thing, kind of open galloped, went a little quicker than a 2-minute lick out in the middle of the racetrack, so a leg stretcher today for him as well. And also Seal Away had a busy morning. Backed up, jogged about a mile, a little over a mile, walked 3/4 of a mile, went all the way back almost to the chute, then turned around and off he went for another 6 furlong, actually almost a mile gallop. And once he got to the head of the stretch, he too was allowed to really stretch his legs. He went 40 and 3 to the wire, continued 53 and change into the turn, and again he too was full of run around the turn. So a busy morning for Seal Away. A couple of horses that just arrived for trainer Todd Plesher, Valiance and Likeable. They both had a big morning. Their exercise rider, she had her hands full with both of them, keeping them on the ground in their first visit to the track. Simply Ravishing, we talked about her yesterday, how she was in actually runoff mode yesterday with jockey Robbie Alvarado aboard. She had a regular exercise rider on her today, but she was still really full of herself, really on her toes. Not in runoff mode like yesterday, but she was throwing her head, and the rider had everything he could do to keep her from running off again. I guess this is just her from what I'm hearing, but it's a good sign. She's just feeling good, and looks like she's coming into her race about as good as she could be, and she's going to need to be. That Juvenile Fillies is going to be some race. And the last note I have here on the main track, one of the last gallopers was Invincible Gal for trainer Graham Motion, and she looked terrific too. I just love the way, the energy she showed. She was full of run all the way around, a turf horse galloping on the main track. They did open the turf course again, and unlike yesterday when there were no takers, plenty of business today. No workers. We had about 7 horses go out on the turf today, 5 of the Europeans, and 2 for Brad Cox, Aunt Pearl, and a Barter. And Aunt Pearl, she couldn't look any better. Boy, was she strong this morning. She really wanted to do a lot more than she was allowed to today. She's coming off a big work at Churchill on the main track on the weekend. I actually talked to Brad Cox about her today after this training session, and he is really bullish on her. He said she couldn't be doing any better. She is undefeated as it is, and she came out of her last race, he said, with 2 really big works on the main track at Churchill Downs. On the Europeans, we saw Audaria, Glass Slippers, Miss Amulet, One Master, you better believe it. Just stretching their legs, just really getting a feel for the turf course more than anything else. I'm expecting to see them back out there tomorrow on the grass and doing a lot more after getting a good look at it today. And one more mention about the turf course. We were talking about how soft it was, how much give to the ground there was last weekend when we had a bunch of workers. This morning, nobody worked, but you could definitely see a difference in the turf. Not as much cut to it, and I'm guessing if the weather holds the way the forecast is saying, as we get closer and closer to the weekend, we're going to be close to, if not having a firm turf course for both Breeders' Cup days. So that's a synopsis of the activity here this morning. More and more of the horses are going to arrive tomorrow. I think everybody actually has to be on the grounds by tomorrow afternoon. Whether they'll all train here tomorrow remains to be seen. But we're going to be seen here. We're going to stay here right through Friday and bring you updates on all these horses as they continue preparation for Breeders' Cup 2020. So keep it right here, DRF.com, for the best coverage of this year's Breeders' Cup.